So hi everyone, this is Ratsudan and welcome back to a new video. In this video, we're going to just take a look how to retrieve data or how to get data from our Firebase database. This video is actually a video that is requested by a user. So he commented on my video on how to make a video on how to retrieve data from a user's Firebase or any database. So that's what we're going to do. So I want to first of all say this video is actually the continuation of the last video which I made on the Firebase contact form, which we only took how to send an email and just push it to a Firebase. But in this video, we're going to use that particular template to pull the data from the Firebase. Okay, so we're going to find a way how to pull, and we're going to just output the email and the password, or email and the message and the name right here. Okay, so if you're new to this video, then I would say you can fork the, or you can just clone the repo from ratsudan/firebase/firebase. You can just go to my, I'll leave the link for the GitHub. You can just go and copy this, and you can just continue continue in this video. Okay, so first of all, if you saw the last video, we actually worked with this, and we need to actually do a couple of adjustments to this. The first one we need to do is we needed to pass in some validation inside this, because we don't need any empty values to go inside the Firebase. So we can have a quick fix to that. Is that if you can come to the name placeholder, we need to set all of this stuff to required. Okay, so you can come to the email and say these are required, and also the message you have to say the text area is actually required. Okay, so then only the submit would work. It wouldn't submit unless and until you fill all of this properly. Okay, so in that case, we are not going to store any empty information inside the Firebase database. Alright, so let's go take a look at our code right here. So this is a JavaScript code, just in 30 lines of code that we wrote in order to push the information. So I'm just gonna go over it soon fast. We actually listened for a contact form submit event, and then what we did, we created these values, and then we passed these values into a function called save contact info. And then what we did, we created that save contact info, we got that name message, and we created our reference to the Firebase right here. And then what we did, we basically pushed the whatever data we got into a new reference, and then we set that as an object with name, email, and message, and that got pushed to our Firebase database. And I will show you the database in a minute. But now what we want to do is that we need to retrieve data. We just need to grab data from our Firebase. So let's work on that right now. Under this save infos to Firebase, I'm going to create a function here. So first of all, let's let's comment this so you can see it properly. So retrieve infos. Okay, let's call it retrieve infos. And now what we're going to do, let's create our reference from here. So we can do it in an easy way. You can say let reference is equals to Firebase. Let's say Firebase dot database. Okay, and then what you need to do, you need to you want to pass in the reference of that particular database. So in this case, it's gonna be infos. Okay. Alright, so we have created, it's already created when we run this function. So now what we're going to do, we're just basically getting the reference, or basically getting that particular document or collection. You call that the collection. Okay, and the collection has some document inside that, and we got a collection. And now what we need to do, you want to set this reference on, and now you want to basically pass value. It is just simply like showing document.getElemented_by_id.add_event_listener. Then on a click, in this case, we're just going to pass on a value inputted. Okay, so because we anyway have value inside the database. And now once we pass in a value, we need to run, I'm going to run a separate function to this, just to do this job, just to get data from that particular Firebase. So we could just name that got data. Okay, so you can name it whatever function you name, we just name it got data. Okay, and let's go create a function called got data. Okay, so now it's going to be a function, and this function gets the data, so we can map through the data to create our variables and create our own divs here. Okay, and now what we want to do, you want to have a couple of stuff inside this. The first one, you want to say let, we are going to just call this infos. Okay, so let's call, you can call it info to infos or whatever. Now we'll just call it info. All right, so info is actually equals to the data we got, and the data dot val, which equals to the value whatever is presented inside that data. Okay, so in fact it's just gonna give you a sort of like an object where you can loop and get the values. Okay, and the next one, you need to be able to grab the keys. So you want to say let keys is equals to, as I told, you want to get the object and you want to get the keys. So keys are basically the unique values that Firebase sets in inside a document, which a document is actually inside the collection, but that each individual document has its own IDs, or you can call it keys. So we're gonna get it by its unique parameter. So we get object.keys. So there's like, if there's 4 emails, then there is 4 keys. Okay, so you need to understand that, and this will make sense when I show you the actual code. And then inside that, you need to pass in the info data, the value you created, to that object.keys. Okay, you want to pass in that, and now we pretty much everything is set up for us right now. Now we need to sort of loop in through every value we get. So let's say for, so let's have a index, and we'll say that's equals to 1, our basic for loop. We can run it, and then we need to set I is minus. This will only run until the key is actually less than the length of the key. Actually, when the I is actually less than the length of the keys, which means all of the documents will get, it will run if there is 4 documents, then this loop will run 4 times. Okay, and once one is done, we can go for the next one. So you just want to say I, and we just say plus plus. Okay, so let's get it, say I plus plus, done. And the next thing that we have to do inside this, we need to have a couple of stuff. So oops, it should be not a comma, it should be a colon. Okay, and now what you need to do, we need to set a couple of stuff. So first of all, let's say, just say I'm just naming I, which basically stands for info, and each individual info I'm just gonna name it I, and we can pass keys, and you can pass I inside that, which means we're gonna just loop over every single document that basically exists inside our Firebase. And I will show you once we can finish all the codes and what that means and all. So first of all, let's create a variables. So let's create name is equals to, now we need to get that keys. Okay, and then we need to get that the first key, and it's gonna go how many key, whatever the length is. So for now we'll work on the I mean for now, meaning we're basically working the whole progress. So keys and the index position, and this will loop. And now you want to say dot name, because this returns as an object, and you can say let email is equals to the keys, whatever keys we passed. And now what we want to do, oops, it's not keys, actually it should be actually info. That's what I was thinking. So keys are actually going to loop over here from this I. So keys, and you get the unique key and the index position of 1, and then you get the name from this info element. All right, so it's actually info, which is getting all the values from the database, which is Firebase. Okay, so basically it's info. Okay, so let's pass info, and then we need to get a current iteration, which is I, and as it's an object, we do the same thing, which is dot email. And let's get this message. Okay, so info, the same element, and we can call this message. Okay, because we passed in as a object from here, so we also have to use the same name to grab it from here. All right, so first of all, let's check whether this is working through a console log. Okay, console log, and we can pass in the name, the email, and you can pass in the message. Okay, and now we have all this. When we have 1 to 3 set up, that's we have to do in order to display that. First of all, let's take a look whether this is working. So I'm going to expand that. I'm going to inspect this, and let's just go to the console. Let me put this up on the side, make this bigger. So it's actually trying to pull all of the data information right now, so it's going to give you an error. So before you want that, let me get to my firebase.google.com. Okay, so my Firebase, first of all, I want to get it. I'm going to show you how our database is. I'm going to go to the console, and I've already created, and if you don't know how to create it, make sure you watch the first video. I'll really go over every basics. So we already created this form test here, And now we need to go to our database. All right, and we have to go to our database, and we have to check what we have. So we have no information inside that. Let's go create database, because I actually cleared it last time. We'll start in the lock mode, but I'll show you what to do later on how to push the information. Right now I actually deleted last time when I created it. I deleted the whole thing because users might submit a lot, because my code also has its own values. But now as we created it, we can push it. So even if you try to push it, you will get an error. You will get an error, your permission denied. It's because you want to set these rules to false. This is the rules are set to false, so we need to first give it true. The first of all, we performed the first video I showed you. You have to change this to true. It's because you need to write to this database. But now in this condition, we also should be able to read from this database. So now we have to set this to true as well, and you have to publish this. Okay, so now all of our this is published, and if you come to the data, we have a simple nothing here. Even collection is not created. So let's go put in a name. I'll just put my name, autofill it. Let's say this is test message, and let's go click on submit. And if you see, I get this Ratan Gobinath, and we get the email is this one, and I get the test message is this one. Okay, and now if I go back, there we go, a simple, this is what I call the keys, okay, which is the unique IDs. And now if you can see, Ratan 666 test message, and this is created. So that's what we want, and we know this is pretty much working fine. But this console.log is actually happening not over here, not on this function, the retrieve function. It's actually happening, the console log is actually happening here, which means we have to get rid of it to make sure it's working. And if you see whether this Firebase infos will work, this will not work, because this will actually not work because we're not calling this function. So let's go call this function. If you see, we have this got data, and we need to call this function, and we haven't we haven't put this inside a function. Okay, so let's go quickly do it. So I'm just going to have a function here, and let's call it retrieve. Let me just copy the function name from here, it's easy. Okay, so let's copy that, and that's a function, and this takes nothing. It's just gonna create the variable, and it's gonna get the reference of it, and see the error is gone right now. And we are referencing a value, and we run a function, this got data, when this function is called. So we don't run it all the times, and the whole program will only work, or this whole function exactly will only work once we click on the submit button. So you can just copy this same function, or don't copy. Let's go to this safety infos Firebase. So anytime we save, this function happens. So anytime this function happens, we need to retrieve data from the database. So we can call a function right here, and this will absolutely work. Okay, so now as you guys can see, I got rid of that console.log, so we don't have any console.log, and we need to, right now, if it works, we need to console.log all the name in the email we have. So for now we have this one. Now let's go and say Sanjay, and let's say rather than, it doesn't matter the email, test article, whatever. Okay, and let's click on submit. And if you see, we're thrown up with an error. But before that, if you see here, all right, the information here is submitted, and we get an error, cannot access I before initialization. Okay, that is an error. So let's take a look what the error is. We references the infos, and we got that on value. We passed the data. Then we created something called infos. We got that value. Then we created our keys, which takes in the infos. Okay, then we looped over it. So it's let I is equals to 0, and I will run only when the keys is less than 1, and we just I plus it, and let I is equals to the keys I. Okay, so we have an error here. The main error, it's basically I assume this to be infos, but we also have an index here, right? So for that, we're just gonna call this info data. Okay, so we can just call this info data, and what this is, it's just going to initialize that the data here. So what, rather than doing this, we can pass it here, info data. You can also have a single letter to it, but we can just have it info data. So we can just pass info data here, and it's a matter of looping through the whole thing, so it doesn't make a big difference. So now let's submit another name. So we just say Johnny, and let's say test from Johnny, and let's submit. And if you submit, there we go, we get rotston666@gmail.com test message, and the second user, and also the user right now what we submitted. So we are able to retrieve data from it, right? So if you come to this, you can see we have 3 of them. We have rotston666@gmail.com. We have all the three users. We are able to console.log. Now it's just a matter for you to get this into your document and work with it. So I'll actually have a simple template that I sort of made for it. So let's go to the index.html, and under the form, you have to go down and create a div with a class. Now you can have it anything. Now I'm just going to have it a div. I'm going to have a div here, and I want to have a div with a class. Okay, I'm going to have a div with a class of infos results. So this helps me to basically customize this in CSS, as well as it just helps me to get this through JavaScript, this div. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap all of this information, whatever we get, right here inside this one, inside this infos results. Okay, that's what I want. Okay, so I created an empty div. Just let that be empty. And now what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna go to my app.js, and I am gonna create once we console.log the name in here, right here, because we need it to loop the div to work every time we have a key in the user. Okay, so I'm just gonna create let me just paste that. So info results, and that is actually equals to the document dot query selector, and here we gave it a class of info results. Okay, so we are able to grab that. That's it. And now I'm just gonna copy and paste a simple template that I have, and I'm just gonna copy that and paste it here. And this is basic JavaScript templates. Okay, so basically what I'm saying, that I'm getting the info results, and I'm getting the inner HTML of that. I'm now gonna set that to a particular div which has a p tag, and the p tag actually has its own class. Now we can get rid of the class because I'm not adding any classes. You can just get rid of this classes if you want to. Okay, and also there's a bit of an error, I guess. So let's Control Z that. Now let's paste it properly. Okay, let's save that. Okay, that's done. Okay, now we have the class, we have all this class, and we have wrapped this name, email. These are just text. Okay, so it's not coming from the database, Firebase, just text message. And then if you can see here, we are wrapping this the p tag with whatever name we get from the Firebase. So if it's Johnny, it's gonna be Johnny. It's gonna be I don't know, like Mary, it's gonna be Mary, whatever, with all your messages, and it's gonna loop all the time how many times your a user exists inside that Firebase. Okay, so I actually didn't give any classes to that, so you don't need classes to that. We can just get rid of that. Okay, and you can just save it, and it's just a simple thing. We have a p tag and we have an a tag wrapped up to this message and thing, and we pass it like that. Okay, and now let's go and take a look whether we get a simple thing. So let's go submit a rotston. So let's just say Mary, so just the same email. Let's say Mary test message. Okay, and let's click on submit, and if you see, once we submit, we're gonna grab all the users information inside this Firebase database, and it's gonna spit it out to our documents. If you see rotston, my name, rotston, the first one we created, the second one Sanjay, message with a message, and we also have Johnny, and all of this is actually nice, and it's actually getting outputted into this database, right? Into this database, not database, actually into our document. So right now we actually don't need this console. We can get rid of this console, and now as you guys can see, it's getting outputted. So the one thing that I just wanted to do right now is I have a couple of classes I've sort of made. So I'm just gonna grab that classes. Okay, so I'm gonna put it in my style.css, and I will leave all of the file links, so you don't really need to type out these classes. You can just copy these classes, and if you see right now, I just made, it's not the best of the world design, just a bit of background and some spacing, and it just looks nice, right? Just looks really nice. So if you see here, we have Ratsudan, Sanjay, Johnny, Mary, and all of these guys are actually being outputted right here. So let's submit another data. Let's call this Danish Raj, okay? And we can just get whatever email. Let's say test message for, anyway, just say test message from me, okay? It doesn't matter. And then we can click on submit, and if you see right now, I guess there was an error here, so let's refresh that right now, and let's all right, so we have to submit that information. I guess that's sort of like a bug for right now. So when we save an info, this has to run. Let me take a look. It's not a bug, it's actually retrieving data a lot of times. It's looping that retrieved data, but it's fine. So let's just say test here again. Let's click on submit, and if you see here, Danish Raj was submit, and I also submitted some information right here. So you can see the message here, test here, and also all of the message, whatever existed here, you can do it. So now you can find bugs in this. For example, if I submit again, it's gonna go down and submit, and it's gonna sometimes duplicate as well. But the Firebase database is not duplicated, so that one thing is nice to keep that in mind. But this is just a video that basically shows that, you know, how to retrieve data. So if you basically want to retrieve data, right, even if you refresh this, we don't have any data, but if you want that data to be retrieved, you can just place your retrieve infos right here, and that will automatically grab all of the Firebase data. It might take a second or so, but this will grab all of the Firebase data and just throw it up in a document. Unless you click it or submit, whatever happens, this function will happen. Okay, so it's good to call this here and here. It might have bugs, so if you have any bugs, just comment it down below, and also if just comment it down below. I can see what bug it is, but definitely this is just a video. I hope you guys enjoyed. This is just a simple video that shows how you can simply and easily retrieve data from Firebase. Okay, that's it for the video. And one last thing that I just want to share with you guys is that I have a Patreon page right now. So it's actually called Ratsudan. I've created a Patreon page. So if you want to help me in any way, if you love the content what I produce, so if you have any spare dollars to spend, then consider spending it, man. Paying to my selecting a Patreon in my Patreon page. So we have the $2, $6, and a $15 membership. In the $2, you'll be able to get a lot of 1 Zoom classes per month and all of the basic Patreon facilities, and $6 you get 1 Zoom class every week, and a $15 if you want to support me very, very much. It's really you get like around 3 personal classes, you get featured on my videos and stuff like that. And also I just wanted to plug that in. If you don't want to support me in that way, that's completely fine. You can like the video, share the video, you can comment down what you've learned. That really motivates me. But if you have any spare dollars, if you think this video is valuable, then consider checking out. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hope you loved this video. Comment down below if you have any questions. I will surely make a video on that. Thank you so much, and I will talk to you soon in the next video.